This is really cool. Oh, it's been great. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If everyone would rise, please, for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd like to ask Diana to call the roll.
Committee Member Shell. Committee Member Middlestad.
Here.
Committee Member Huber. Committee Member McMorris.
Here.
Committee Member Gordon.
Here. I make a motion to excuse both Tim and Diana, because they both contacted us in advance, is that right? Oh, Kathleen, sorry. Did I say Diana?
Yeah.
Oh, you're there. Yeah, I make a motion to excuse, I look down here, Kathleen and Tim from this evening's meeting.
Second that.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Green, are there any late changes to the agenda?
There are no late changes to the agenda.
Thank you. At this point, we will look at the agenda from last time, or hopefully you've had a chance to review it and see if there's any discussion of the minutes from last time, or if we have a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve? Yes. Second? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. The meeting agenda, minutes from last time are approved. At this time, anyone requesting to speak to the committee regarding all items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward. I'm not seeing anyone in the room. And is there anyone online or except Jeff? No, I don't think so, right?
There's one person,
Is there one?
Jeanette.
Oh, Jeanette. Okay. All right, well, if there's no one that wishes to make public comment, we can move on to our business part of the meeting.
Okay, so this is what we had intended to be a discussion of Mr. Creel's couple of options and anything else that committee members have brought forward to hopefully reach a recommendation or recommendations to City Council. Now, we also note that two members are out who have had quite a bit of input in the past couple of meetings on these. So as part of this, I would ask Mr. Creel, when we get to that point, what the timing would be of getting a design finalized for the roundabout center, and is it critical that we do something this month, or can we move the final recommendation to next month? And so that's part of what I would ask that we talk about during Mr. Creel's presentation. I think he also has a video that was shared. And are you able to play the video first? Why don't we do the video? And Jeff, go ahead and unmute. And if there's anything you want to talk about with the video, or which video you want Diana to show, please go ahead and do so, and then we'll go ahead and get started on the options that you have.
So I think the video was just for information, so I don't think we need to share it as much as the sections.
Okay, why don't you take it away then, Jeff, and tell us what we're seeing on screen here. Okay,
so this first option was based on the last meeting that we had, and there was kind of a desire to see the treehouse idea developed further with a sculptural piece containing tree houses. So this depicts that scenario, as well as we had talked about seeing the plant material in its kind of, I guess, context with the roundabout itself. So this is a cut section through the center of the roundabout, and you can see some of that plant material and how it would look in that scenario. You've kind of got your ground clovers closest to the traffic lanes, some landscape boulders placed throughout to provide that natural setting that we were looking for. And then also depicted are some native shrubs that we had gone over last time. In this case, some ceanothus and other materials. So if we could look at number 2. And so this is similar plant material, but Chuck and I had discussed providing an option that showed, rather than one big sculptural piece, 3 separate smaller pieces. And so that's the primary difference in this scenario. And yeah, if there are any questions or things that you would like me to answer, I can do that.
I have a question. So a couple questions. One is, are the sculptural elements in this second version just kind of to be determined, or are they also kind of based off of a birdhouse theme, or are they more like the second video that you shared that had the mechanical pieces that move that were kind of wind driven?
Yeah, this is just kind of representational.
Okay.
The 3 sculptures, I took something that I had found on the internet and kind of expanded on it. Like it was a sculptural tree piece, and just kind of placed some birdhouses among it. But yeah, I would expect it to be something that you guys decide on.
The other question I had was about the landscape plants, because I've kind of lost track of exactly what they were, although I know that you are tracking and have incorporated the ones we talked about. Did we not have any small trees at all that we were asking for in this design, or that were in the earlier design? Did we go just to shrubs? Is that correct?
Yeah, we're kind of in that large shrub, small tree territory with some of the manzanitas, I believe. I think we had also discussed some Arbutus unido as an alternative as well.
What's the common name of that one? Is that the strawberry tree? Or no, is that
The one I'm showing here is the manzanita,
Okay,
but I'd probably swap them out either way.
okay. I just became aware of this other evergreen native plant that's a small tree. May get to 20 feet, but it's called a silk tassel. Are you familiar with that tree at all?
Yeah, I think, is it Gariana or?
Yeah, I think it is, and it gets these beautiful tassels. It's evergreen. It's a kind of oak, but it doesn't get large like an oak.
Yeah.
That was another plant that I just recently was made aware of, and I'm going to use on my own property. And I thought, ooh, that could be a cool one to start to ask for in our roundabouts, perhaps.
Yeah, I'll put that in my notes.
Okay, so those are my initial 2 questions. Other folks with questions about what we're seeing tonight?
So do we need to decide if we want one large sculpture or multiple sculptures? Is that what we're debating tonight?
That's a good question.
So we were hoping to get a recommendation from you on what you would like to forward to council. Seeing that we're missing 2 members, and I would imagine both of them want to have an input, an option would be to forward something to council for a temperature check, because right now I have council taking action at their March 27th meeting. The question, and maybe this is more for Jeff, if we were to wait until April for final action on this, Jeff, which then kind of kicks off the design of what goes into the middle, I know that at least from the construction schedule, the roundabout itself is not planned to get started in earnest until May or June. and the middle would not be ready for planting until probably toward the end of the project in September. So as far as, since you're the landscape designer on this, what does that schedule constraint, I guess, look like as far as your ability to turn around a final design?
Yeah, I think turning around the design right now would be fairly easy, no more than a couple weeks. I think securing the plant material, we should probably move forward with as soon as possible.
So one of the questions then, I know that's coming up with, we are about ready to start our wetland planting in the northeast part of this area, the northeast of the roundabout in April, and they're procuring the plants now. Without an ability to plant the plants now in the roundabout because it doesn't exist, is that an issue of securing the plants, purchasing the plants now, but keeping them in an area where they can be watered and cared for until the fall?
Yeah, that would be something that the contractor would have to, I mean, ideally what they would do is contact the nurseries, the local nurseries, and, you know, let them know ahead of time that I'm going to need XYZ plants, you know, in September. And, you know, if there were some plants that were hard to secure, that would give them enough time to do so. I wouldn't want them caring for them on site for much more than a month,
Yeah. Sounds right.
especially during the hot summer months. But
And one other question I have, Jeff, is I'm not seeing the protective knee wall in this cross section. Do we just assume it's there and that everything that's in the middle is kind of relative to the top of the knee wall?
yeah, that's correct.
So that means the knee wall is outside of where the native ground cover is?
So my understanding was the knee wall would be adjacent to the curb. So maybe I'm misreading it.
Yeah, it would be behind the truck apron, which there's a flat area next to the automobiles, and that would be the truck apron, and right behind the truck apron would be the 20 to 24 inch high knee wall. And last time we talked about that being kind of that the top of the knee wall becomes the new ground level, and everything else would be mounded up higher than that so you could see it.
Yeah, I can include the knee wall in an updated sketch. I'll just have to bug the engineers to get it to me.
Go ahead, Matt. Maybe.
No.
Yeah, there, I think it is.
Oh, it's on and off. I see. Yeah, I think with I think the idea was to increase the height of the plants as they reach kind of the center, with the idea that draws the eye as you're entering the roundabout, right? And the axes coming out of the roadways, you know, as they cross in the middle kind of thing. But in that kind of idea, you know, if you're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, then if you have a central artwork, your piece of artwork has to dominate the plants, or else it has to kind of peek out of the plants,
Good point.
depending on what kind of artwork it is. So I could imagine an option too, if they were smaller things, that the smaller things were positioned so that they would be visible in the periphery if the interior plants are intended to be larger. Otherwise, I would think that the interior plants should not be so large if you want to draw, if you want to see the artwork that you're.
Right, that's a good point.
Yeah, I would definitely concur with what you're saying, is if we did have multiple smaller pieces, they'd be a little closer to the traffic lanes than depicted here.
So not with it looks like you still have the central artwork in option 2, because there's the pedestal, or unless that means that they're all on pedestals. but
Oh, yeah.
it looks like you have a central artwork and then a peripheral art, two peripheral pieces. Is it intended that they're all three peripheral?
I think that's what the ultimate design would need to be, for sure.
Then you could have some central plants that were maybe the most significant feature, and the artwork is supporting features to the roundabout. That's unlike like the Bend roundabouts used a really large dominant art piece. Anyway, but I don't know, Bend is different, right? Because it's high desert, we're not high desert, we can grow lots of plants and.
Yeah, that's true.
They also had an arts commission that had quite a bit of money, so
Yeah,
they could
right.
afford some of these larger pieces that maybe our community won't have the resources to do quite what Ben did. But yeah, it's a great point that, you know, you don't want the artwork to be, you want it to complement each other, the plantings and the artwork.
Diana, could you go back to the first one? And then I want to make sure, Heather submitted a couple of images. I want to make sure we don't forget about those in this discussion. Is the set of birdhouses, is that art birdhouses, or are they actually functioning birdhouses in this?
The examples that I've seen are functioning birdhouses, but they're also, primarily art pieces. I don't know if there's a distinct difference.
This looks like the piece of artwork that was in one of the examples.
Yes, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you click on the Facebook tab in the center, we can see
Oh, there it is.
what the piece looks like. And I'm not endorsing this piece over any other piece. It's just, I thought, a good example.
I think that one's in Australia or New Zealand or something.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
So the shipping cost might
Would
be
be-
substantial.
Yeah, it'd be a big shipping fee for sure.
I'm sure we could make something like that or have it made here if we wanted to.
Yeah, I know there are some metal sculptors in the area.
Do you think, well, this one, that particular example looks like some of it's metal, but don't the birdhouses themselves look like they're wood maybe, right?
Yeah, they do.
They are, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. The sculptor's daughter, I believe, designs the wooden bird houses.
Yeah, I'd like to read, did you read the title? It's titled Home Tweet Home. This sculpture represents the strength and resilience found within communities. This family tree sculpture and its whimsical birdhouses serve as a vibrant tribute to the diverse group of people who come together as one united family.
Oh, that's sweet. I have to say that one of my, I mean, I have various, thoughts around this particular example, or even just the birdhouse thing. I start to think very practically about what it's going to look like a year in, 2 years in, 5 years in, with our weather, and I kind of see a maintenance nightmare with these birdhouses. I don't know. I'm kind of. I mean, if they were more truly artistic and made of metal, then they wouldn't house birds maybe, but they'd be more enduring. But it's got a kind of kitschy look that I don't know I would really want in a birdhouse, in a roundabout. That's why I was spent some time over in East County this weekend, and I walked at Steigerwald Lake Refuge, and that's where that piece that I brought to show, only because it just seemed like simple design, clear, enduring, and this one I can imagine more like in an area where there's lots of kids and stuff because it's so whimsical, but I also think about our directive to not make something that's distracting to drivers, and I think something along this lines would be super distracting, I think.
What was the one you had referenced? I'm
I
not
think
sure.
Diana can pull it up probably here for a second. I just shared it this morning because
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But then I think it got sent to us maybe last minute, but they always just pull them up for us when we get here. I know you sent it to us, Diana, didn't you? No, it's just an image, just took them with my cell phone. There it is,
I don't know.
to the right, yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's very elegant.
Really like it. I think, one thing I thought when I saw it too is that I think the artist who made this really knew birds and was very much taking images of actual birds doing actual things, and you can just almost feel like, oh, that is the hawk ready to sitting up, perching, looking to do something on the top, looking to hunt. It's made of some sort of steel that weathers and turns kind of, so it's a rusted color. Anyway, I just thought I'd share it because I did really like it.
Is it a tube, like with
It's
a
flat.
three-dimensional bird, or is it
It's-
just a
it's flat, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's about probably 15 feet high, maybe. It's pretty tall.
Where did you
Okay.
take this picture?
Wow.
It's local. It's at Steigerwald Lake Refuge, which is over in Washougal.
Okay,
There's
then we should be able to find the artist.
I tried too. I was trying and I was having trouble finding it. But you're right, I think so. We should be able to track it down eventually. I couldn't find it easily on a website.
Yeah, we
But
could
yeah.
find it eventually, and then we could contact them and ask them to make one for us, but like with, local birds.
Yep.
It seems like very easy maintenance, not too distracting. I remember first like a couple months ago, we were talking about like this birdhouse concept.
Yeah.
And then I remember the next meeting, we switched to a heritage tree concept.
Yes.
And then it seems like we went back to the birdhouses.
Yep. we did
And-
somehow.
And now you're kind of, it sounds like you're having second thoughts about the birdhouse idea.
Well,
I am, but that doesn't mean that represents the view of everybody.
Yeah, I'm not,
Just, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
Kelly, the meeting you missed, we found out that the heritage tree
Oh, right.
was plopped over right on top of a major sanitary sewer line. And Clark Regional Wastewater really did not like the idea of having to try to remove a really big tree to get in and maintain a sewer line. So that's why that
okay.
disappeared. In lieu of having the smaller kind of tree / large shrubs around the middle with something in the middle, and that's where we came back to the birdhouse concept.
I see. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. We need to figure something out.
Well, I'll tell you, the reason I asked Mr. Creel to do a second image
Yeah.
was just kind of anticipating where I thought council was going to land on a concept with a birdhouse tree in the middle. My experience is, I think council would be much more attuned and willing to have art pieces like the metal sculpture you talked about. Doesn't need to be the same one,
Yeah.
and it could be we commission an artist to do something, because that's not weather dependent or seasonal dependent. It can be put in at any time.
Yeah, kind of in my search for a piece or pieces, I came across a lot of sculptural tree type pieces. And there seems to be, much like the one you were showing with the crows, there seems to be a lot of that out there that seems pretty successful.
One thought I had when I saw that, and what I like about visiting that refuge is they have artistic elements like that throughout the walk. And there's a part of it that's an art walk, but each time we've gone, it's the season, it's closed. It's only open April 30th through October 1st. And we've gone in the fall and we've gone in early spring. We've never gone. But they have elements of sort of things that I assume it's the same artist. And I thought how nice that was to have that kind of connection throughout a space. So it was crossing my mind that, oh shoot, if we could have like a consistency in the art designs in many of our roundabouts, it could simplify things for planning purposes. It could lead to an easier kind of connection between roundabouts. But I understand there could be an issue around like not only using one artist or something for different projects, or I don't know.
This is one I'd have to bring back and talk with our finance director who leads the procurement. The idea here is that this would be part of the project construction, and so our contractor would procure the artist as part of their work.
Right.
The interesting point the observation I want to make, if you could put that back up, Diana, is in about a month and a half, we're going to start putting the Sandhill Crane arts on both the railroad overpass and the I-5 overpass with a new fence. This is kind of the negative image of that, which actually I find kind of intriguing. But this, for us, we're doing Sandhill Cranes, and we've been focused on wildlife for the Ridgefield Wildlife Refuge, bird life.
Yeah.
So that's just an observation from an engineer standpoint as to what you could consider here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is lovely. I think it's good. Like we could say that we would like something like this, a metal tree sculpture with negative space in the shape of local birds. And that could be the centerpiece of the roundabout. And then the shrubs, the small and large shrubs are there so they don't block the sculpture.
Yeah.
And partially because the roots are short for that drainage issue that was mentioned earlier. That
Yeah.
seems like it could be a good recommendation. What do you guys think?
What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, that sounds good. I was wondering about, because it's, would you say, two-dimensional? So 15 feet is pretty big.
Yes,
So
pretty tall.
it's a good centerpiece. If it was a little smaller, you could put them a few around maybe, and then grow your plantings higher.
I was toying
I
with
don't
that
know.
idea too, because I actually have, I wish now I'd brought it, I think I have a picture of it on my phone, but I don't have a picture shared with you guys. But I have in my own house, I had, as the neighborhood across the street from me started to develop and it was feeling like I didn't have a boundary, I put in some metal, similar, probably not as heavy duty as this, but some metal, artistic metal things that, and they're not super tall, but they create this kind of, they have like plants, negative space plants in them, like a flower or something. And I have 3 of them, and they kind of create like a little bit of a barrier. But you're right, that was the other thing I was wondering is like, do we have one tall one? Do we have instead 3 smaller ones that are, maybe 8 feet high, but not as tall? We don't have to pick the like thing to be in the center necessarily, but if we like this concept, yeah.
I like the layered roundabout strategy where there's kind of a center and then it kind of, anyway, a lot of roundabouts I think are designed that way.
To have something in the center, you mean, or not?
So that they, like our big one at Rosars has like tiers that go up into a center point. Sometimes they're domed a little bit, sometimes,
So this one, so far, this design for this particular roundabout doesn't have that.
It doesn't have a shape to it.
Well, I think he
I
means
think it
that
was
like the
intended.
outer plants are the lowest, and they get increasingly
Right.
taller
Oh, okay.
with the metal sculpture
Yeah.
being
I get
the
it.
tallest
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah, I understand.
And the ground too, having some curvature to highlight whatever you're gonna do with the roundabout. Otherwise, if you run it flat,
Yeah.
then it's just, and there's no, visual center point or whatever as you're entering and going around the roundabout.
So that image that Jeff showed with us then is depictions, those don't show a mounding of earth in the middle, do they?
A little bit,
Do they? Okay.
yeah.
See them again. Oh, I get it. Yeah, they are kind of going
Just a
up.
tiny bit.
So if you had like the bottom 3 feet of the sculpture wasn't relevant and your plants were roughly 3 feet high, then the visible portion of the sculpture might be above that, depending on what you were.
I believe some of the landscape plants, Jeff, you may have that list in front of you guys, I don't, but some of those are probably 6 to 8 feet in height, right? The blue blossom?
Yeah, I think that's probably the largest in the center would be 6 to 8 feet.
Okay.
But can the center point, can it be nestled in amongst the trees? Is that like or like, because it's two-dimensional, you have to see it from somewhere, which is probably coming from I-5. Probably you would orient it to be east-west, not to see east-west, not north-south.
Yeah, I imagine so. So then it's okay if there's some slightly larger shrubs, you know, because on two sides, the 2D sculpture wouldn't even really be particularly visible. So there's not that much to block. Yeah.
So one thing to also keep in mind, depending on the orientation of the sculpture in the middle, since it is two-dimensional, you have a couple directions that'll come on edge, and so you won't be seeing much, and the other directions you'll be seeing full on, which might bode for putting multiple ones in different orientations around the roundabout. So you
Yeah.
can get that.
That could be really beautiful that way, actually, because then everybody gets that.
Yeah. We could recommend a metal tree sculpture with it looks like the birds are laser cut from the metal, I think, with laser cut local birds on it.
Yeah.
And if it's 3D, sort of like imagine like that thing, but 3D,
Oh, well, that's true.
so that it can be appreciated from all sides of the roundabout.
I'm wondering about the negative space, how that would work in a 3D one.
Yeah, it wouldn't really work for the negative space thing. You'd have to be like laser cutting the birds and putting them on the tree.
Okay.
So, but I also like the negative.
be.
I mean, that could be cool.
Yeah,
But
that
I
could be
also
cool,
like the
too.
negative space birds because, like Chuck said, it's kind of a nice juxtaposition with the overpass.
Yeah.
So I think they both have pros and cons. If we go with the 2D one, then maybe it would be even more important to put the larger shrubs on the thin sides, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that it's fulfilling the purpose of providing a visual barrier so that cars won't run into it.
Right. All right, so I guess one thing I'm wondering about is, are we thinking that, where are we between the idea of like having 3 sculptural pieces, say 3, I'm just gonna go with that number because it's up in front of us with option 2, or having 1 larger piece? Do we have, or maybe we're talking 2 pieces, I don't know, depending on the, I can't visualize the way you guys do in your heads, I'm having a hard time with this, but do we think, if we were to push through a recommendation to council, do we want to recommend more than 1 sculptural piece, or just the 1?
I think I would vote for 1 to keep things pretty simple and hopefully less expensive.
Although the budget for this probably don't have to be as worried about, is that right, Chuck? Because it's being funded by the project?
coming out of the project, so I was hoping we could keep it to less than 100,000. I mean,
Okay.
we're doing pretty good financial shape, but I would not go try to spend $1 million on this.
Okay, yeah, no. I don't know how much a sculptural piece like that costs, but
Yeah, I have no
the
idea.
plantings and planting it, that's probably a pretty big expense. What are your thoughts?
I don't have a strong feeling about it. So the boat design is a single, right? Single art piece?
Mhm.
So in that way, it's a
Consistent.
single art piece, I guess, but
True.
I think that the canoe is intended to be the focal point, whereas this would be more of a complementary thing, I think. It's art and nature together, right? Yeah.
So can someone describe for me again what this is gonna look like if you're coming, so if it's 2D and people are coming from, there's two directions from which people would see the images, but the other two directions, what would they see?
Well, if you aim this at like a 45-degree angle, you would actually see it on angle from each of the four directions, but you
Oh.
wouldn't see it dead on
Oh, that's a
in
good
any of the
point.
directions.
Oh,
If you were to put in multiple ones, like 3 of them, you'd orient them so at least one of them would be dead on to most of the directions, I guess. Or each one would have one except maybe, or at least if you want to put one on each quadrant, then you have one facing each direction as you're approaching it.
With a single, I would go all in on the east-west.
Here's a little drawing.
oh, you are so fast.
So this is what it looks like if you're going straight on,
Right.
and then if you're coming from the other side,
Yep.
it's just like this, and so I was thinking it could be, like, we could save the largest shrubs for the sides like this.
I see what you're talking about. Yeah, that makes sense.
If you orient this facing east-west, which is the majority of your traffic and travel, the north leg will be going for about 600 or 700 feet, then it'll either go left to go to the community building or YMCA. If you go right, you'll go to Costco. South, it'll take you into what will become a business and commercial park.
Okay.
I'm just trying to draw it at an angle, but that's harder to do.
Is that two different
Yeah, sure.
roundabout pictures, or is that one?
This is one, so this is coming at it,
East-west, if
facing
we
like
did that.
straight
Oh,
forward
yeah,
at the
yeah.
thing, and this is looking at the side of the same
Yeah,
roundabout.
right. Yeah. Was I confused about where the roundabout is? Is that what you were saying?
What was that again? Sorry.
The location of the roundabout, what are the directions on the roundabout again?
Well, it's four directions, so the principal compass directions, east-west. If you're coming from I-5 on Pioneer, you'll be facing it. If you're coming from downtown Ridgefield and the refuge, you'll be facing it,
Okay, yeah.
the 2D part. If you're coming from the community building or YMCA or Costco,
Right.
you'll see an edge. And the same if you're coming from the business park, that's going to be on the south side of it.
But and actually that does make sense, that the primary directive headed towards downtown would be the side angle that people would.
Yeah, and if you're coming off the freeway, you're looking through the negative space toward the refuge.
Yeah.
But everyone will see it since everyone's
Yeah.
going around
Yeah.
in a circle around
Yeah.
it. So everyone will still get to see it.
Yeah, so I'm also stuck on whether or not we should recommend more than one sculptural piece. I don't know whether it's better to ask for more than you expect to get, or whether visually there's some advantages to having more pieces. It seems like they might not all, well, I just have no idea. Do you think, in your experience, Chuck, do you think the expense of just one of those is gonna be pretty significant?
I honestly don't have any idea. I think you could do 3 smaller ones and the larger one at similar prices if you take 3 smaller ones put it together that makes the larger one. But again, it's also the time the artist puts in
Yeah.
to fabricating these. If these are metal and they have some type of a laser cutting tool that cuts out the whatever the negative space is, it's really the cost of the metal and their time in that respect. I was trying to think if, I was trying to answer, there's another question there about the 3 versus 1. If you remember, actually, I'm not sure any of you, I think Heather, actually 2 of you were on when we did the Costco
Yes.
roundabout. If you remember, we sent council, or you sent council 2 recommendations and council picked one.
Oh, okay. Yep,
So that
that's
is an
true.
option.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do that. We could say one extra tall one in the middle, oriented east to west, or we could say 3 that go slightly around the outside in that they're angled, so one will always be facing in one direction.
If they're lower, if the 3 option got chosen and they're shorter, the negative space, if that's the design that ends up getting used, maybe more, it might not be so open to the light because of the shrubbery, I'm thinking maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I
Is that
agree. And there would also be like you might be seeing the other sculptures through the negative
Yeah.
space, which is why I was kind of thinking just one.
Just one.
Yeah.
So
But
here's an
we could
idea.
recommend both.
Once they cut out the negative space, they'll have a bird. And the
Oh.
birds could be mounted on something. You could have
Yeah.
something that takes those birds and puts them into the median approaches to the roundabout.
That
And
would
then
be
you have the
cool.
negative space in the middle.
Oh.
That would be very cool. Super cool. I love that idea. You could even have those, like, I'm not sure what space were you thinking they could potentially be in?
The median approaches, there's medians and
Oh, yeah.
approaching the roundabout in all directions. They're called splitter islands.
Okay.
And so that is an option. Which
I like
we could
that.
do.
I was also thinking of them just being on kind of some sort of metal post in the roundabout too, like in one of the outer
Oh, yeah.
edges. That could work also.
Yeah.
The other option is to take those birds and mount it to the side of the knee wall.
Yeah. We are assuming that the artist is able to cut them out in just one. You think that's true? That's when they work like that? They cut them out in ones?
What's what you commission if that's what you want.
Oh,
I
that's true.
mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so should we make two recommendations?
Would we be happy if the recommendation with the 3 is, would we be equally happy with the 3 as the 1? Or do we like to let fate decide and let them make that choice? Or do we have strong feelings? I think that's how I approach that, answering that. And it sounds like, Chuck, we are leaning towards maybe letting you have something to take to council next week. Is that right?
Council is this week and the one I had planned to take to them is on the 27th, so that's 2 weeks.
Okay.
Probably we would ask if, before I commit Jeff to anything, if he has the ability to kind of throw in a kind of a sculpture placeholder, maybe using the image that you took at Steigerwald.
Yep.
And depending what you want to do with the bird cutouts, maybe he could do a couple of those that we can present to council on the 27th. The other option, I guess the question is, do you want to have council do a temperature check, which with 35th, council city manager Steve Stewart did a temperature check at the briefings and then came back the next roundabout committee meeting to finalize things. And that's another option. I think the big thing here is the plants in the middle. If you're comfortable with Jeff moving ahead with whatever the plant mix is, the vegetation mix is now, that's probably less of what council will be looking for, other than they want to know it's native, it's low maintenance, and it's not busy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems okay to me. I like the idea of also, if they take a temperature check, but then we can come back, then Tim and Kathleen get a chance to also give their inputs, and I think that's kind of desirable from my perspective.
So if we can okay the plants,
Yeah, Jeff, would you mind reading back off? I mean, I can pull out, I think I have a piece of paper somewhere that has it, but would you mind telling us again which plants were recommended?
Don't have the list right here.
Okay.
I could bring it up in about 5 minutes.
All right, let me look in my backpack too. I might have it.
So we were looking at a sculpture there that might have been 15 feet high. The interior trees or bushes might be 8 feet. And then at the very periphery, 3 feet. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
and a ground cover too.
Oh, so almost inches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, here, I think I have it. I have them. Yeah, so this, I think we took this off the list. Rose, that could get about 6 or 8 feet. This could get about 6 or 8 feet. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3.
An evergreen? Is there some evergreen in the mix?
Yes, Oregon grape, manzanita, ceanothus,
Okay.
and.
So it won't just totally be,
No, that was part of the design, is that we get some ones that will not, that will look beautiful year-round. The other one I would have recommended was coyote brush, but there might have been a reason why they didn't want that one, but that also looks really nice year-round. It doesn't get super huge. The deciduous ones are gonna be the Nootka rose, the thimbleberry, and the snowberry. And then some of these native, he's calling their ground covers on this, which they're a little bit more, I would call them,
well, ground cover, it's gonna start set below the knee wall, so
That's
if
right.
it doesn't grow very high, it's not gonna
It's
Yeah.
not gonna be
be very
visible
visible.
at all, yeah.
Unless the curvature starts soon.
yeah. But he was referring to these as ground covers in one of our conversations. This, I think, was the meeting before you guys joined us, and some of these are 3 feet tall, this one gets 4 feet tall, 4 feet. Let's see what he finds.
Did you guys find the plant list or?
I think I did. I think, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken, this is one from, maybe it was shared in, you guys joined us in February,
Last
so
month.
it may be, this one was not, this must have been shared in January, I don't know, I'm losing track of myself. It had, Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have it if you don't.
yep, that's it, okay. I think so.
Jeff, are you able to share what you have? Because we have it on screen here. Oh, Diana's putting it up. And I think this is what you were looking for.
Yeah, it should be, there it is, that's the one I'm looking at. And we kind of said we thought maybe the red twig dogwood wasn't a good idea, because we were.
Yeah, we did eliminate that.
But we kept those other 3, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and then what about, what's the next page? Nootka, we kept that, thimbleberry, kinnick, and snowberry?
Yes.
Okay, and then what about the page after that?
I don't believe we had a whole lot of changes.
I think we
We have
talked
the-
about this penstemon, being sure that it's a native penstemon. And we talked about possibly including Oregon sunshine, because it really grows easily and is no trouble. Would give some.
Yeah, we did switch out for Oregon sunshine.
This
The-
would be the
The
layers.
penstemon is native. I did verify that.
Okay,
So this would be the layer just behind the knee wall, so you're kind of working way upward
yep.
in elevation with these three images.
I think that's right.
So this is which, the lowest or the highest?
Wait, so this is the medium, the
Medium?
one with all milkweed and penstemon, that's the medium, right, Jeff? That's what we're saying?
Yeah, so the highlighted green part represents these plants. So these are the lower plants.
Okay,
And they kind of range from 1.5 to 2.5 feet.
Yeah.
And then these would be more of your next level shrubs. And then the first page was your taller shrubs. Minus the dogwood, of course.
okay, so these are more that one is the center, the tallest shrubs that we're looking at right now, is that right?
Yes, yeah, these are the taller center shrubs.
And then the next page was the somewhat shorter shrubs?
Yes.
Although Nootka Rose can get pretty tall. In my yard anyway, I have one that's about it's as tall as me, 5 feet. Thimbleberry can get a little tall, but it's deciduous. Kinnikinnick is the ground cover that we would use on the very outside, because that one's very flat to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, there are some, I think this is a poor picture, but there are some that have a little bit of height, more of the straight species than the Massachusetts.
Oh, really? Okay. I'll take your word on that one. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of pass off the low one for
Yeah,
everything, really.
okay.
So there's nothing very woody in this, right? It's all shrubs that are really kind of small diameter branches.
Yeah, not a whole lot of woody. I mean, I guess the Arctis, Staphylos columbiana, the kind of manzanita-ish,
So the sculpture looks kind of
somewhat
like
woody. Yeah, sculptural trunk. Yeah.
like a dead tree that birds would roost on or something like that, and then you have the negative space in the tree, but it would be a single tree amongst other stuff. So in that regard, having multiple might blend it in more.
In a positive way?
In a positive way,
Okay.
if there was three, because I wonder if it'll look, like you normally see a dead tree amongst living trees, and there's other, so when you saw it at the park,
Yeah.
probably there was surrounding trees in context, right?
There was, you can kind of see it in the picture almost, but there's a lot of deciduous trees around it, that shrubby trees that had kind of lost their leaves. So it was kind of peeking up out of those. So right now, because there's no leaves on things, each time I've seen that sculpture, it's been with no leaves. I have yet to see it with the leaves
Yeah.
on the trees. But even so, I think the upper 2/3 of it you could probably see based on, but yeah, very different. You're right. Some of these are evergreen, they're more mounded looking. It will look a little different.
Okay, well then why don't we recommend both? Recommend the one single in the middle and then a couple,
A smaller.
maybe like three.
3, and let
Slight-
council
slightly
have
smaller. And let them decide.
see what they think.
Sounds good.
That's fine.
I know that you've been looking at art amongst yourselves up there, but we don't have a clue what you're looking at.
Oh.
Would it be, if you're going to recommend something, could it be something that's forwarded to Jeff to maybe work into? Or is there a way to kind of take your rendering and flesh it out a bit more? It doesn't change your recommendation, you're recommending the concept, but as far as helping with the imaging that goes to council, it'd be nice to have
So the drawing
something
that
that we
Kelly
can
did,
see.
I could,
Yeah.
I would not want to send them this. Yeah, I could draw some pictures just like I did last time. and you would like me to send them to Jeff?
Go ahead and send things through Diana. She's our clerk, so she can forward back and forth.
Okay.
I wondered when you guys were going to comment on feeling left out. They're these renderings are great. It's amazing.
Yeah, we did a similar at La Center Roundabout, a metal feature. It was a wall, but there were some swans that were cut out, and placed on the wall.
Oh,
So
yes, I've seen
yeah, we have a little
Yeah.
bit of experience with, metal cutting, and know that it could be done. If you all had designed it yourselves, it could be reproduced.
Great.
Okay. So I'll make if everyone agrees with this, from what I'm understanding, I'll make a sketch, one with the tree sculpture, a single tree sculpture in the middle, and then one with 3 tree sculptures, and then maybe some alternate options of things that we could do with the birds that are getting punched out of the negative space. They could be on the knee wall, like at the La Center roundabout,
Okay.
or they could be on posts in the roundabout, or they could be on the median, like Chuck suggested.
Okay.
Okay.
And if with that model, if it's a central piece of art, are we looking at something similar height, like 15 feet or maybe shorter?
I would go as big as we can afford, kind of, like 15 feet or something, because it's a big space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It could even be wider. I mean, I think the artist could maybe help with that,
Yeah.
figuring out proportions, what would look good there.
Yeah.
But in the perimeter, they might be smaller,
Since 3 of them need to
Like-
fit. Yeah.
2/3 of the height or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of 15 feet, maybe they're 9 feet or something?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, yeah,
Why is
maybe.
that too?
But if they're too small, then they'll eventually be hidden by the shrubs.
Yeah.
So maybe 10 or 12 feet or something. I don't know. Again, it could be up to the artist to decide what proportions would look best.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they could be made skinnier maybe if we, like, I don't know. If we need
The
them
La Center roundabout, I know I showed this a few meetings ago, but they have some trees that looks like they're maybe 4 to 5 feet high, but they're not all, they're scrunched together, they're kind of spread throughout. And then they have a brown colored wall with silver cutout birds in flight. This we could do the opposite. If this is going to be kind of a dark sculpture, the bird cutouts will be dark, and if we have it against a concrete background, then they'll pop out. So it really depends on, again, if you want a kind of a stainless steel metal, which might be a little invisible depending on what you have in the background. Whereas what you were showing that with at Steigerwald with the with the brown metal, and then the negative space being the air.
Can you tell from that brown, I mean, is that just rusted out steel? Because I know they do stuff like that, right? Where you buy something and it kind of over time develops into that color.
I believe this looks, I'm
More
trying to
like-
remember, my wife and I visited this, but I don't remember it being steel. Jeff, do you remember what the wall in the center of the roundabout, if that's a concrete, a stamped concrete or something?
Oh, you're talking about the center, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, which one?
The one in La Center at 4th and
Oh.
Pacific.
Yeah, we had used Corten steel, the weathering steel. And there were also some concrete and stone elements as well. But yeah, the wall was generally the weathering steel, and then the swans were cut out of kind of a shinier stainless steel.
There was also the question about the center piece. Was that too? Was it whether it should be dark or?
Yeah, the Fourth and Pacific roundabout does not appear to have a big center sculpture. All the art was on the wall itself. But the wall, because the roundabout has differing heights in that wall, so it's not all constant like our knee wall concept, but there's varied.
Yeah.
And that's where the stainless steel art was attached to that brownish wall.
I think I would be worried if this tall tree sculpture was made out of something shiny, that the sun could be hitting it and causing glare for the drivers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I wouldn't want that either.
So I would choose something dark and matte, just like in the picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Chuck, do you feel like you have enough information from us to go to get a temperature read from council?
So are you recommending not to recommend, or are you recommending something to take to council for a temperature check, or
I
what
wanna
is the
recommend.
action?
You want to recommend?
Yeah, I think we have
Move forward.
something really solid, and
Okay.
I think we've been working on this long enough.
Okay. I can go.
But
get
you
behind
are the
that.
chairwoman.
Oh, but it's a group conversation and decision, so I feel strongly, and I agree with you. We've been working on this one for a while, so I think it's smart. Let's go ahead and recommend. But I guess, are we recommending, we're recommending one of two designs? Is that what I'm hearing? So, 'cause you're
Or
doing,
we're recommending two.
I'm hearing you're recommending two, one with the centerpiece and one with three or some, scattered around the roundabout.
yep,
And it sounds like I need to update my sketches to reflect the different art pieces, examples.
yes.
Yeah, I can try and get those done as soon as I can, and I can send them to Diane so that she can then forward them to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll try to get those. When would you like to have them?
A week's time would probably be okay.
Perfect, okay.
Great. Gosh. Someday we're gonna sign your name somewhere on all of this, Kelly. Do we need any kind of motion then?
You do. If you want to forward a recommendation, you'll need a motion. And we'll need to know, are you just talking about the negative space center art, or are you talking about taking the cutouts and putting them somewhere else?
We need to
Say that in our motion, I think.
say, okay.
Okay. I think we're talking about the cutouts too. I think it'd be great to use the cutouts somehow. I don't know if we, right now, know exactly how they would best be used. I don't know if I know.
Well, I can drop options for them, and then we could just pick one to recommend now, and then the council can look at the different options.
Okay, that sounds good.
So let's say, we could say that they should be on the medians, or what do you want?
So I'm hearing, there's two options I've been hearing. One is to take them and put them on a stick and put them into the median. The other is to fix them to the knee wall and maybe adjust the knee wall to give it more than just a straight 24-inch height, maybe vary the height like a cloud or something that you could. So it's up to you. I'm just asking for clarification.
And a third option could be to put them on sticks in the roundabout.
Yes.
Yeah.
I personally have slight preference for the last option only because it seems more natural. Like there are birds amongst the greenery or amongst bushes, but maybe I'm just not picturing the rest. I could go either way, so.
I think against the dirt and plants, they're not gonna be as visible as on
Yeah.
the concrete,
Okay.
because they're dark.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's
Yeah.
what I.
Yeah.
You're right.
They won't be super visible, that's
Yeah.
true. But we'll be more protected. But
Well.
They're camouflaged
So if
birds.
you're talking about the
True.
median, is the median like,
is it that wedge-shaped thing?
Yeah, when you're approaching it, it's like we call it a pork chop, but it's kind of a triangular
Yeah.
shaped piece that widens out as you're getting to the road part of the roundabout. And you'll see yield signs there on those, or
Here's
do
the
not drive
roundabout,
next to
and
trucks.
it's
Do
kinda
not
like
run over the
this.
birds.
Maybe with a green
So that
backdrop. it'd
the
be good, though.
cars
Yeah,
go like that.
okay,
It's like that.
okay.
This,
It'd be in
so the
there.
bird could go here on a stick.
It could be cool, actually, it could be cool.
If you could conceivably, if this is done right, embed your sticks in the concrete of the knee wall while it's being poured, and then stick your birds on that, so they'll stay in place. You'll just need to make sure that your backdrop vegetation is lighter in order for them to show up.
Yeah.
So many options. Ugh.
It would then, but in that case, maybe would they need to be finished sooner? Or maybe not, maybe only the posts could be there, yeah, okay. So do we have to decide on one of those options?
Well, I'm good inside, put them inside is great. Inside
Okay.
Yeah.
Not on the knee wall, more inside where the plantings.
Well,
Or on
I
the
mean,
median.
somewhere associated with the roundabout. center.
Inside the roundabout.
Either on the knee wall or just in the, as
Okay.
long as, there's green on the, they'll show up good with green, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or adequately,
Yeah, they
right?
would.
Okay, why don't we say on posts in the roundabout itself? I'm just afraid if they're down, the knee wall's only 2 feet tall, so
Mhm.
it's quite low to the ground.
Yep.
And they might not really be visible there. That's all I'm thinking. Also, they'll eventually be hit by cars.
Oh, yeah, that's right, we can't have that happen.
They'll be more susceptible to be hit by cars if they're in that triangular splitter island or in the
Yeah.
median.
True.
For
Yeah.
some reason, people
Oh,
tend to
good point.
drive over those. But if
Yeah.
they're
Okay, that's,
behind the knee wall's there for protection, and.
yeah. All right, let's put them inside.
Okay.
All right. So we need a motion.
Or can we motion also the plants? Or do we need to? Is that already agreed to? Can we just propose the whole thing?
Yep, let's propose the whole thing, including the details about the birds, the cutout birds. I don't know.
Okay, so
I don't know if I can make the motion, so I'm like, that's why
I'll
I'm
try
looking
and you
around.
can correct me.
Okay.
I motion we recommend we recommend two proposals. One with a central art piece, or the second one has three or similar, smaller peripheral art pieces. And then the plants as proposed in the last discussion.
Mhm.
And then using the cutouts to put on sticks around, kind of also the periphery of the roundabout. But
Periphery or the
inside,
I think,
on
yeah.
the interior, but like not in the center, right?
Yeah, okay.
So you could, rather than try to micromanage this, you could give the chair the authority to work with Mr. Creel to identify the plant list that gets put in. That's an option.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Let's take a shot at it.
What was the wording that you used?
Designate the chair to work with with Jeff Creel, the landscape architect, to develop the plant list.
Okay, I move that we designate the chairwoman to work with Jeff Creel on the details of the plant list.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay. Well, yeah, all in favor, but I think we have two separate motions going. Because he made a motion, now you've made a separate motion. I think we need one complete motion, would just make it cleaner. Am I right?
You want to start over?
Yeah, somebody needs to start over.
And if you could, so I'll kind of help.
Yes, please do.
Seed this. I'm hearing a motion to forward 2 options to council's recommendations, one with a central, one with 3 art pieces. The art will be dark with cutouts for negative space. The center will have a native plant selection. Chair Heather Gordon to work directly with Jeff Creel on the plant list for that. And then I haven't heard what to do with the cutouts.
I think we agreed that they'll be placed on posts inside the roundabout,
Post inside the roundabout.
inside the knee
Okay.
wall.
Posts or steel rods or whatever makes sense.
Yeah.
For the artist. All right, so that's the motion that, who made the motion? Diana does need to record that. We'll say, he did? We'll say, Dan did. Dan made the motion. Well, you amended the motion. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
So let's move forward with the motion made by Dan, amended by Kelly.
I would suggest you just start over.
Start over,
You're
okay.
getting way bogged down into
Yeah.
Robert's rules here.
Here we go.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I motion that we recommend to the council that we have 2 design ideas. One with a single metal sculpture in the center and one with 3 around the sides. And it's a 2D metal sculpture made out of a dark matte material with birds cut out in it, laser cut out of it, and so there's like a negative space. And I'm working on it. And then the birds that are cut out of the metal can be mounted on posts around the inside of the roundabout. For the plants, we have large and small native shrubs. And
You want to authorize that I work
And-
with Jeff Creel directly on the plant selection.
and we authorize that our chairwoman work directly with the landscaper Jeff Creel on the plant selection. Does that cover it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second it. I second the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Yes, you all voted yes. Okay, so the motion carries, and we're forwarding to council 2 options for the roundabout at, what is the name of that? 56th.
50th and
50th
Pioneer,
50th
50th
and
Discovery
Pioneer.
Drive in Pioneer.
Yeah, per Kelly's description. And Dinah, how are we doing? Were you able to take that down? No?
I've got it.
Good job, Diana.
I've got it.
He's got
You're
it.
recording it too, aren't you?
Oh, okay, that's right.
And then I have Kelly McMorris made the motion, Heather Gordon seconded.
Right.
Okay.
And it carried unanimously. All right. Chuck, do we have any more items to cover under the business category of the agenda?
The only thing, you remember last time when you made the recommendation on 35th, you also forwarded to council a suggestion that this roundabout you just recommended on be the next one. Do you have another one? Because there's 2 that are still left.
Okay.
There's the one at Rosauers at 3rd, which is kind
Yeah.
of south of Rosauers that has some stuff in the middle. It's been kind of a placeholder.
Yep.
And then the other would be at Wells Drive, South 15th and Royal, which is the new one that was finished last year. Do you have a
Well-
preference?
I would love to do the one at Royal.
Which
They're
one?
both kind of.
Oh,
have
sorry,
Royal.
the Wells,
The Wells Drive one?
Yeah.
The one that's down at 15th?
yes, the
Yes.
new one. Mhm.
Okay. I'm afraid to say which one I want because I live off of that roundabout. So of course I have a bias that I also feel like that one's been waiting longer in a certain way. Dan, what about you though? Do you want to?
Great.
Yeah?
Do you live near it too?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Are there any other considerations, Chuck, that might feed into our decision that we should be aware of?
I just know that you have at least one current counselor who has pledged to use old metal from farm equipment to make metal art for that roundabout, so he's wanting to see it move ahead.
Yeah, I think that's another reason to kind of move. So yes, we would like to ask that that be the next roundabout that our committee looks at.
Okay, then I don't have anything else. And
All right.
thank you, congratulations for making the recommendation. I know it's been a lot of work.
Our third
Good.
one, yay.
Can I comment about one thing?
Yes.
Last time I mentioned there was a vision, and I was incorrect, it's a draft, right? But the vision components are small town charm, growth and infrastructure, community health and well-being, equity and inclusion, and environmental conservation and natural beauty. That's in the Ridgefield draft vision.
So something to feed into our conversations.
Yeah.
Thank
that's,
you.
Anyway.
And we can take that up even further from the committee part if you want. I'm just
Oh,
gonna.
sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to staff reports. Chuck, are there any staff reports?
No,
All right, now we have our last item on the agenda, which is from the committee. So this is a time we can raise other issues related to our committee's work that might want to be discussed. So do you want to add on to what you just said at all?
Oh,
or-
no, I just thought it was interesting, and it's a bit nice to rally around these themes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I assume that this was in December, so I don't think it's been finalized, but.
It may be coming out in the,
I think you're talking about the 2045, Envision 2045 long
Yeah.
comprehensive plan. Yeah, council did finalize their vision statement and goals at their last meeting. And I think those are pretty much what they wanted to move ahead with. There's some specific goals and strategies within those
To implement
vision
that.
statements, but they didn't change the vision statements.
Yeah.
I came with one other thing that I was kind of wanting to bring up, and now I feel like we just made progress, so maybe I don't know. And are there really only 2 roundabouts left for design right now?
Those are the 2 that exist. Now, we still
Okay.
have another 4 or 5 that are planned, but nothing currently under construction.
Okay.
And the next one, I'm trying to think of what would be next. There's been talk about a roundabout at Reman Road and Pioneer with Bertsinger.
Oh, right.
That's been brought up at least a couple times with the Bertsinger Group and the 35th Avenue South Extension study, which, by the way, is now out on the street for consultants to take that next phase.
Okay.
And so, which is the environmental and eventually select a preferred alternative, but it's years away for something there. There's also, we're trying to put money together for a new overpass over I-5 south of Pioneer on South 10th and 11th. Where that is ending up at Union Ridge Parkway right now is in my plan, at least, to be a roundabout. But again, that project, we're trying to get money for finalizing the design now.
Is that
would
on the
be-
east side of the freeway?
That is east side of the freeway.
Okay.
And then there's, we're taking a look at North Royal and 289th Street. There is a plan on the books to put a roundabout there as part of the North Royal corridor improvements and possibly an extension of 289th across I-5 to the east side.
Okay.
And then finally, we're getting a group of developers together on Carty Road. They've been waiting for council to adopt development standards, which they did. I believe they did, or maybe they had first reading. I don't know where they are.
Yeah, I heard about that,
But
actually.
in lifting the urban holding zone, that also needs to come with that, is we're going to get the developers together to chart a plan for for Carty Road, starting at Hillhurst and heading east for about a half of a mile, and then build it. But I've asked that particular attention be placed at the Carty-Hillhurst intersection as to whether that should or could be a roundabout.
Yeah, that would make sense there.
So those are the ones kind of in flux now, but I would say you're at least 3 or 4 years away from the next one coming in after those two we just talked about.
Wow. I guess I think one of the things I wanted to bring up was just, you know, working on these projects, you have to be patient, it takes time, there's multiple players that have to, you know, weigh in and think about it and consult and all that. But I do feel like looking at these empty roundabouts for extended periods is really a kind of sad thing. And I wondered, for example, with the one that we did finish, the one with the canoe and the children and stuff, I wondered, Chuck, if you had any idea of the timeline, any possible idea on the possible timeline for that to get funded and completed. Are we talking months? Are we talking a year? Are we talking 3 years? Do you have any ideas on that?
I don't, because we're actively looking for either a foundation grant or other type of funding to do it. We have some money in our budget this year to design it and get it ready for construction, but we don't have the money to actually put in the art and the other features.
Yeah.
So I'll probably at least get the design completed, so we have an idea what the cost would be to build it.
So you know how much money you're looking for
Yeah,
from the
which
grant?
might be that we look at next year's budget. We're in this interim transitional budget between what was really supported by residential house construction to one that is more sustainable, which is financed by sales tax receipts. Costco being one of the primary ones that is giving us a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
So next year's budget, we believe, is not going to be as lean as this year's budget.
Okay.
So that might be an opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if there was, like, if we knew, depending on what we thought we knew about the timeline, whether there was worth considering kind of as kind of temporary ways to maintain those so they look like something. And I guess, like I didn't realize the one by Rosars, you said, that's kind of got temporary stuff just thrown in there. Yeah.
It did have some landscaping when it was built, but it was just a kind of an interim placeholder. Ideally, we would like to have what we're doing here at the Pioneer and 50th roundabout is design it now, build it now, and then you don't have to worry about coming back.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So this is kind of setting the precedent for the future roundabouts that are coming online.
Okay.
That Rosales one seems smaller. Is that right?
That one's smaller than this one because there's not as many traffic lanes.
Yeah.
Is the one here
Okay.
at 50th and Pioneer. Let's see, is Jeff still on? Oh, we lost Jeff, but thanks, Jeff. Oh.
So that was my 2 cents that I wanted to bring tonight. Is there anything else from the committee?
I have an interest in like I've mentioned before, in the curvature. I know the one by Costco is flat, and I don't know why it's flat. And maybe it was discussed last time that maybe it could be done either way. It could be flat, it could be rounded. Is there an approach that we're?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I did a little investigation in like the Department of Transportation guidelines suggest like a sinusoidal kind of with maybe you could look at the knee wall as the inflection and then kind of. All right.
I think that's probably when we get it through council and there's an actual design, that's a design direction to HHPR Jeff Creel, because you obviously have to have stability in the soil that you're putting in there so it doesn't just drain out in the first deluge of rain, but it needs to be enough that you can mount it up. And I don't know how they plan to do that, but I know that has been the ongoing discussion is it's not just flat,
Right.
that there is some curving up so you can start seeing what's behind the knee wall.
Great.
And the one at Costco, you're right, it is fairly flat. I can't remember if that was, is it, but it's still somewhat mounded,
It
isn't
has a little bit of a mound to it. We
Yeah.
did talk about that, but probably, I think, what I'm hearing is the desire here is to have it a little bit more mounded so you can see most of the plants that are there. Whereas at the one at Costco, I believe you'll see that some of those plants are kind of shrouded by the knee wall.
Yeah,
I would say that the soil is quite a bit below the knee wall, and then if it curves, it doesn't say crest the knee wall. It's kind of
yeah, that's a good point.
below. Whereas if it started almost at the top of the knee wall and then dome from there, you would see the kind of the
Yeah,
the shape.
yeah.
That's all.
That's all? All right, I'm going to say that this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, go for it.
Nice to meet you.